It might seem crazy to think about now, but if you've just turned 20, the next 10 years of your life are going to blow by so very quickly. And I have some advice for you if you're in your 20s. This is all stuff that I wish I had known when I had just turned 20 years old. I'm 32 now, and my life is nowhere near where I want it to be. So I decided to make this video to focus on things that I wish I had known about when I had just turned 20, and things that I'm just now beginning to apply in my life at 32 that I should have applied 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that would have made a huge difference in the trajectory of my life. And maybe I would have even gotten to a place that I would be proud of. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So first, I would say your 20s are overhyped. Society is going to have you believe that this is a time for reckless abandon, for vacations and travel and stuff like that, but most of us don't have that opportunity. So you're going to be inexperienced, broke, easy to exploit, and you're going to be scared. So all of these things put together make your 20s not the best time of your life, so don't expect a non-stop party is what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself, but honestly, you got to be able to take care of yourself too. Next is do things for future you. Don't just do things in the moment that make you feel good at the age of 20, because when you're 30, these things are going to have caught up to you, and it's really important to honestly start taking care of your body and stuff like that, and plant seeds for your future, not just for your present. Everyone is going through something, so don't project perfection. You never know what someone is going through, and it's very easy to focus on the highlight reel of someone's life, but remember that above all else, everyone is going through something. And the harder choices you make in the moment, the micro decisions that you do or don't do, make all the difference. Become aware of your small decisions. I wish I had become aware of the decisions that I was making and how they would directly impact my future, but I was just thinking that these little decisions are not going to add up, and it's so difficult to maintain them that I don't even want to bother anyway. And then before you know it, 10 years has passed and you have established a habit of avoiding good habits. If you focus on what you lack, you will lose what you already have. So remember to take inventory of what you have and be happy about what you have in your life at the moment. And don't get good at something that you hate. It's very easy to choose something based on money, but the rest of your life is going to be long, and you definitely don't want to lose all that time focusing on something that you don't like. And at the same time, I would say have a bedtime at the same time every night. This is something that I'm still struggling with right now, but I really think that getting a habit routine established when it comes to bedtime and doing a bedtime ritual and prioritizing spirituality first thing in the morning and last thing at night is very important. And when you're sick, you only have one goal, and that is to take care of the pain. Like, it's like when you're sick, you have one goal. When you're healthy, you have 1,000 goals. So whenever you're in pain, you want to remember that it could always be worse. I've had chronic pain in my life, and every day with that chronic pain is a blessing. So take care of your body, because health is wealth. You want to find people that share your values on this journey, because it's honestly quite difficult to go through this journey alone, and you're gonna have to find those people that believe in you. And just before you level up, you're going to be tested. So I misunderstood the assignment multiple times, in that I thought that it was time to give up when things got really hard. In reality, things were about to I was actually probably closer to having a breakthrough than I ever realized. Sorry, I'm spraying my palette because it's kind of getting dry. I was painting before I started this video. Speaking of which, hi guys, my name is Shelby. If you're new here, I paint, I draw stuff, and I exist. So I'm kind of just trying to impart some advice onto you guys that I wish I had implemented, obviously. But if you want to support this channel, you can leave a super thanks, buy me a coffee in the description, follow me on Instagram to see my art, and of course you can buy my art on Shopify too. So that's how you support the channel, also by subscribing and liking and stuff like that. So anyway, back to what we were talking about before in terms of advice for your 20s. I misunderstood that things would get hard right before I leveled up, and that's normally the part where I gave up, right before I break through. So don't ever do what I did. Never self-sabotage if you can help it. You teach people how to treat you, so never let a joke slide. Like people like to say that they're just joking or something like that. Well, you want to call that out in the moment, and you don't want to allow people to disrespect you. Let's see. Act the same way you did back when you had nothing. So this, as hard as you're fighting to get away from rock bottom, never lose that fight. You want to keep working as hard as you did when you had nothing as when you do have something. Never get complacent. And don't dim your light to make other people feel more comfortable. That's one thing that I did do, is that people would try to humble me and they would see something special in me, and then they would douse it with negativity and doubt, and I would end up dimming my light and not shining as bright as I could because I was afraid of making someone uncomfortable. I would say study something new every day. Learning is really important, and if you make a habit of having a 20-minute learning session every day, and you write down notes that you learned from maybe an audio lecture or something like that, you're going to be way far ahead of the crowd, because most people stop learning after school. And make 20 minutes a day to learn something new and to study something. And don't just listen to it passively. Write down notes and try to review it. Put your own mask on first before helping others. This goes back to what would happen in a case of emergency on an airplane. You have to put on your own oxygen mask before you do anything else. And that is a very important thing to do, because honestly, you don't want to get yourself in trouble helping someone else when you yourself are in a vulnerable position too. So never be the hero if you can help it. Unless you have training to do so, of course. Confidence comes from keeping commitments to yourself, so be your own best friend and show up for yourself. It's very easy to learn to not trust ourselves. Oh, my thing made a strange noise. I've never heard it make that noise before. When like, I just lost my train of thought. It's easy not to trust yourself when you don't show up for your commitments, I guess, like you could say. And unfortunately, we are the first to take ourselves for granted, so try to be your own best friend. And dedicate a decade, not just a day. I really was thinking really short term in my 20s. I didn't know how to manage my time very wisely, and the days were long, but the years were short. Like, I look back on my 20s and it seems like a blur, even though I know I wrote down stories from my 20s, and when I read them, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But at the end of it, you don't really remember each individual day. But what comes across from those days is the habits that you made over the entire decade. And you don't want to miss out on decades of your life building bad habits. It's time to break those habits and do what you can and fight against those vices. And obviously, tell people that you actually care about them, because you never know when the last time you're going to see them is going to be. You never know what day is the last day before everything changes. You know, like today is September 10th and tomorrow is 9/11, which is, I've got my American flag on today, as you guys see. But that was a day where, it's interesting that we're on that day, but that was a day where everything changed the next day, and the day before was like a century ago, 48 hours later. So you never know when the last day is of your current normal. So never take anything for granted. And never make a decision in fear or when you're in survival mode, because you'll probably end up making an impulse decision. And it's sometimes difficult to even know when you're in fear. You can be unconsciously in fear, and you have to kind of take inventory of if you're in survival mode or not. Take inventory of all your vices and virtues. like sugar, nicotine, stuff like that, all needs to be taken care of, and you need to take a good look at it to see if that's something that you really want in your life. And take on responsibility, but take on small enough responsibilities, just enough responsibility to where you're going to be challenged, but not so much that you're going to burn out and be overwhelmed and spread too thin. It's really important to have some sort of something to pull against, I guess, like a North Star, maybe discipline, maybe some sort of responsibility, even if it's scooping the cat's litter box or showing up to make YouTube videos. You need something somewhere that's holding you accountable to a higher goal. So even if it's just making your bed in the morning, create a habit of at least one responsibility first thing in the morning. It doesn't have to be big. Build a foundation and not just a focus on a future or a vision. So a lot of times we end up imagining a bright future for ourselves, and a lot of times this is not based on reality and it's all delusion. What you need to focus on is building a strong foundation from which your goals and habits can sprout. That means health. That means stability in terms of mental stuff, which I know is a privilege for some, but I think for most of us, if we do the right things, we can be stable enough to build that foundation. And your habits are your future, so show up consistently. I wish I had shown up better for my habits. I actually have a lot of art to show over the last 10 years. It actually surprises me how much I have, but I never was one of those people who was able to draw every day. So instead of trying to go against the grain of what I'm able to do, I say I'll draw 5 days a week, and then I schedule in the 2 days a week where I know I'm not going to draw. And that seems to have been really helpful, because I realized that not taking a break actually makes it more difficult to be consistent in the long term. So 5 days a week, 2 days off is pretty standard. Make sure you apply that with your hobbies as well. The people around you matter, and they better be the people that are holding you accountable. There is something to be said for yes men and people that glaze you and gas you up. There's a time and a place for that, but you do want people that are willing to roast you and give you critical feedback, at least, in terms of your craft and the profession that you want to go into. It's never too late to start again. I thought that when I was in my 30s, I told myself that it was almost too late to try anything new, which is preposterous, because obviously I just lost my train of thought. Obviously 30 is still very young, and it's not the end of the world to not have everything together by 30. So every day is a new day. You want to start over every day, every hour, every moment, and remain a beginner. And your environment affects your mental health, so try to control as much of your environment as you can, either by cleaning it up once a week or cleaning as you go. Keeping a tidy environment allows for more clarity and less struggle in the mind. And focus on progress, not perfection. I wish I had known that each little step that I was taking towards my future would one day be an entire decades-long journey of self-discovery and figuring out who I was in the most unphotogenic ways possible. I didn't know that all these little moments were going to add up to a disappointment one day, because it seemed so far away, and it seemed like I didn't know the consequences of not taking action. So progress, not perfection. Learn to say no as much as you say yes. I had a lot of times where I had a hard time speaking up for myself, and I would almost lie by omission and take on things that were very painful for me, that I just didn't want to bother anyone else into speaking, which is preposterous these days, because I don't think I would ever have that problem now. But I was so afraid of rejection that I was afraid to stand up for myself. So don't be afraid to say no. Remain curious and non-judgmental. There's a time in your 20s where you feel like you're completely incompetent in a lot of things, and to be honest, the antidote is curiosity. Remain curious, remain open, remain like a child in terms of your desire to learn new things. And remember that every day is a new beginning and that you're just getting started. It's okay to not know everything. I would almost say lead with your incompetence in terms of like, don't try to be the smartest one in the room. Don't try to always have all the answers. It's okay to not know the answer, and it's okay to remain curious in order to obtain it. You are the architect of your own life. Now, like any building, there are natural disasters that can come and knock it down, right? But at the end of the day, you are the only one that has full control over the building of your life and how you respond. So why not take full control over the things that are in your control and become discerning and know the difference between what you cannot control? Confidence comes from action. Like I said before, you want to show up for yourself, and you definitely want to take action. Action is not always a very sexy, picturesque moment. A lot of times it just has to do with getting up off your ass and getting something out of your purse that you've been meaning to get. It can be a very small thing, but take immediate action. As uncomfortable as not procrastinating is, you have to make a habit of doing things right away, and that's something that I still struggle with right now. I'm just trying to maybe tell myself all these things out loud so I'll start to do them as well. Obviously, learn something new daily. Forgive, but don't forget. It's okay to move on, but don't give people second chances to harm you ever again. You can move on and let go of the past while still remembering the lesson that was taught from that moment. Focus on what you can give other people. Give other people the stuff that you would want to have, not necessarily like in terms of physical objects, but like if you want compliments and you want feedback and you want mentorship, be that person for someone else. Try to be the person that can help them, and be the person that you wish you had. Your toughest moments are your greatest teachers, even the ones that scar you for life and leave you worse off than before. I'm not saying I wouldn't undo the difficulties of my past, but there are lessons that I learned at rock bottom that I never learned on mountaintops. And I don't think I would go through it twice. I don't think I would ever have wanted to have learned this lesson at such a deep and lived level, because there were times in my life where I almost did not survive, and I think that there are serious lessons that can only be learned when you face your own mortality in a real way. Like I don't think I can understate, like, unless you have literally faced off with your own mortality, you don't know how fragile it really is. And that's one of those lessons. Maybe you guys relate, maybe you have been through a similar near-death experience. But I would not redo that. I wouldn't want to go through that near-death experience twice, because I don't think I would survive a second time. I got lucky. I threaded the needle to survive this far. It actually is kind of crazy, so I try not to take that for granted. Let's see, what else do we have? It's about who you're becoming, not who you are. So who you are right now is one thing, but you want to kind of create a roadmap to get to the next place. The next thing is to be coachable and teachable and open to constructive criticism from a qualified source, but also know when to not listen. So it's like we don't want to defer all of our personal responsibility to an external source. We still want to have enough agency over our life to make our executive choices. However, I think it's very important to accept advice from people that have been there, especially if you're lucky enough to have a mentor. So being coachable is very important, and having a beginner's mind and become aware of your assumptions. Never assume that you know something. Never assume that you're the smartest in the room, as Alexander Burr would have us do. So we don't want to assume we're the smartest in the room because we're not Alexander Hamilton. We want to assume that we don't know everything, and we still want to be confident in our abilities of what we do know, but we want to remain open to new ways of learning. And of course, that is about it. 20 minutes of advice for those of you in your 20s. A little bit extra. That's pretty much everything that I wish I had known. It really has a lot to do with building little habits over time and sustaining them. you're going to get to your 30s and be like, that wasn't cute. It's not cute anymore in my 30s, but it actually probably never was. You just thought you had time to dilly and dally, and a lot of people end up blowing their 20s and having to rebuild. So don't give up. I'm one of those people that is trying to get my life off the ground in my 30s. So again, if you want to support the channel, do it through all the usual links and stuff like that. So hopefully this wasn't too all over the place or something like that, but I did want to just share some advice, and that's all. I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Good luck with your 20s.